everyone, and welcome to all of you to this amazing Zoom event, the official book release of the book Fika Made in Sweden, written by Stina Almroth. And I am so excited to meet all of you here. And before we start, I would like to give you a brief information about this event and what you can expect the next hour, okay? So first of all, the event will be recorded and live streamed on the official Facebook page of Fika Made in Sweden. So if you haven't still visited and joined and following the amazing Facebook group, please do so. So then you will be able to see this event over and over again. So how many of you are excited for today's event? Great, amazing to see you. So during this live event, you will meet a lot of exciting people and you will get behind the scenes and get to know what this book is really about and how it actually was created. And I am also very excited, because I know that we have participants and guests from all over the world with us today. So please write in the chat. I can see that you've already started writing. We have New York with us. We have hello from Canada. Please write in the chat and share with each other. Where are you right now? In what country are you? So, and while you are entertaining yourself in the chat, I would like to start with sharing with all of you how I actually came to know the author. My name is Linda Lindqvist, and Stina came into my life 2.5 years ago when I started mentoring her within investing. And I have actually followed this book journey and Stina's journey every week for the past years. And I can tell all of you people that it has been an interesting journey, both ups and downs, as life itself is. And now we're here, and I am so excited and thrilled. I have the book in my hand. So it is an amazing day today with official release. So I have actually come to know Stina and her capacity quite well during the last couple of years. And just the other day, I realized that Stina actually reminds me of another character that also have played a big part, in the Swedish culture. Actually, Pippi Longstocking. So why so? What has Stina in common with Pippi Longstocking? Yeah, because when Pippi Longstocking faces a new adventure, she always says, I have never tried this before, so I will definitely succeed. And this characterizes Stina to me, whatever project she goes into. So this event today, for example, normally a book release is held in person, but in these crazy, upside down Corona times, it needed to be done in a different way. So Stina said to me, Linda, I'll have it online instead. I have never, ever done it before, but I will definitely fix it. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is Stina Almroth in a nutshell. She fixes everything. And with that said, let's turn our attention to the author herself, Stina Pippi Almroth. So people give her a warm round of applause. So Stina, with your background with a PhD in nutrition from Cornell and a career as a researcher within child health that actually has changed the World Health Organization's guidelines regarding breastfeeding, how on earth did you come up with the idea writing a book about Fika?
Well, before I explain about the book, I want to say hi to all of you guys out there, all my family and friends from childhood, from high school, from university, and from, you've seen all over the world. So this is a much better way of doing it, so that I can have all of you with me. And all is also a very important word when it comes to Fika. And in the context of Fika, it's not just about it being nice. It's also about being practical and efficient. We love that here. And my favorite illustration of that is business consultant Anders sitting in the cafeteria of a university hospital, overhearing the doctors from all different departments chat about, stuff. And one doctor says, "I need a liver." And then another one says, "But I have one for you." And so then that problem was sorted out. Now, about the book, the short version is that when I was living in Delhi, so many of my friends and colleagues suggested that I open a bakery. I think because they liked my baking. I could not imagine a bakery, but it got me started thinking about Swedish pastries. And then it struck me that the context around our pastry eating and coffee drinking, Fika we call it, now that was really special. And then the thought after that was, and so then why are we not using that to market Sweden? Why are we not world famous for Fika? And I think I must have decided in an instant there that if nobody else did it, I was going to let the world know about Fika. And is there a problem?
No, I can hear you, Stina.
Okay, well then I'll just continue.
Yes.
Anyway, so first, of course, I thought that the bakery was going to be my vehicle. That's how I was going to share Fika with the world. But bakery didn't happen. And then I still wanted to really tell about Fika. And so then I thought, well, I can always write a book. It only requires me. I thought, well, then it's involving many more people. But I could start writing, and that's what I did. And I think in the end, that was a much better idea. Now, what struck me when I was done writing about I would say at the first draft of my book, was how very Swedish Fika is. And that's the reason for the book's title, Fika Made in Sweden. We made this up. We invented it, created it. And so by learning about Fika, you'll be learning about Sweden. Or as my Italian friend Sandra put it, she said, so Fika is like a window into Swedish society. And while the screen is mine, I want to say thank you to, all of you who are here, all of you who are helping, behind the scenes, and Linda and everybody to make this release happen. And then so many people who've been part of the journey before I even started writing the book, and then people who've been involved in the book, and you'll meet a few of them here.
And thank you so much, Stina, for the introduction. And I can say that when I got the book, I read it from cover to cover, and it is an amazing book, I can tell you. So, I believe that a lot of us, most of us who are joining in today, have some special and a lot of different memories regarding Fika. And in 2018, after the general election in Sweden, actually 134 days passed before a new government could take office. So I can tell you that we had a little bit of, an urgency in Sweden by that time, and we experienced uncertain times already at that time. And to resolve this problem, the head of the Swedish Parliament, actually the Speaker of the Parliament, who is named Andreas Norlen, he handled all the negotiations with all party leaders every day, day in and day out for 134 days. And Fika actually played a big part during these negotiations and all these meetings. And he actually got kind of famous for that as well. So with that said, Stina, I am happy and thrilled to announce to you today that we have actually a surprise and a very, very special greeting for you and to all of you others who have joined us today. So with a little assistance from the technical support behind the scenes, I'm happy to introduce you to Andreas Norlen, the Speaker of the Parliament in Sweden.
Hello, my name is Andreas Norlen and I'm the Speaker of the Swedish Parliament. Thank you for inviting me to the release of this book on Swedish Fika. I'm actually mentioned in the introduction, so I'm grateful for this opportunity to share some thoughts on Fika. I have to confess, rather fond of biscuits and pastries and enjoy meeting for a cup of coffee and something sweet in various contexts, following the Swedish Fika tradition. I think it's a pleasant and relaxed social activity which suits most people. Perhaps you know that the process of forming a government in Sweden took an unusually long time following the elections of 2018. We had a complicated political situation and I had to call the party leaders for talks 7 times in all. I often thought then that one of the most Swedish things to do when you invite people for a discussion is to offer them a cup of coffee and a bun or a biscuit. That is what I was thinking when it was time for the first round of speakers' interviews with the 8 party leaders. We must have some coffee. If you sit at each side of a table to talk, it's bound to be a bit more stiff and formal if you don't have a cup of coffee in front of you. I invited everyone to different kinds of pastries, including vacuum cleaners. I don't know if you have tasted them, but I'm particularly fond of them myself. I also have a weakness for cakes and biscuits of a more sturdy kind, like filled chocolate biscuits. The Prime Minister's favorite, on the other hand, are Finnish shortbreads, not very sturdy at all. And they are incidentally not Finnish, but Swedish, which the Finnish ambassador to Stockholm pointed out at the time. One of the party leaders actually brought buns he had bought himself. He had baked himself to one of the meetings, and I really appreciated those. They were quite delicious, and I was very impressed with his skills in the kitchen. The media and of course the entire Swedish population followed the process of forming the government with great interest. In the beginning, great media attention was actually focused on the very fact that I invited the party leaders to coffee and pastries. The photographers were at some points waiting outside the speaker's corridor, trying to get a picture of the trolley with the cups and the biscuits on it, and the journalists were at more than one occasion asking questions to the party leaders regarding if they had appreciated the biscuits and which biscuits were their very favorites. And I can understand this, because at the beginning of this process there wasn't very much to report on politically. So the media focused more on coffee and buns instead, on Fika. But we actually did talk a lot about politics as well. And eventually the Fika angle became a bit less apparent in the media reporting. But despite that, I do realize that my meetings with Fika, with the party leaders, did make a mark in Swedish political history, and I hope that the protracted process of forming a government, with all its coffee drinking and consumption of biscuits, helped raise the Swedes' knowledge of democracy and perhaps create at least some international attention around the very Swedish tradition of Fika. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share these experiences against a backdrop of my own collection of political coffee mugs. Thank you.
Amazing, so great. And unfortunately, Stina, Andreas Norlen's duties didn't allow him to join us live today, but he solved this with the cooperation with his press secretary behind the camera. So let us say thanks to both of them for this greeting. So let's give Andreas and his press secretary a warm round of applause, people. Let's stay active. Yeah. So what I think is amazing that Andreas' greeting both revealed the importance of Fika, of course, in the political arena, but also a well-kept secret. Actually, the favorite pastries of two of the most powerful leaders in Sweden. Actually, the vacuum cleaner and the Finnish shortbread. So if you ever wonder what the government in Sweden likes for Fika, now you know. So while we are in the world of politics and diplomacy, I think it would be very interesting to hear a couple of words from Olle Westberg, who is with us today. And he has actually written one of the two forewords in this book, the diplomat's perspective on Fika, and where he actually mentions the speaker of the parliament's famous Fika meetings in 2018. And Olle actually has a long and distinguished career as a politician and a diplomat. He was, for an example, the Consul General to New York and the General Director of the Swedish Institute. And I must say that I just love his foreword. And if I may, I would love to share a couple of lines in it with you. An appreciation of Fika helps in understanding Swedish social and work culture. Fika is also about good coffee and pastries. Stina Alroth's book addresses both. I love that. So thank you, Olle, for that foreword. So Olle, perhaps you're with us today live, and perhaps you would like to share with us some of your own examples and experience of Fika being the solution of choice in challenges situations. So do we have Olle
yes.
with us live? Hi, Olle,
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, yes. And you could see beside Linda, you could see the coffee and especially the cookies. And but Fika for me is much more than that. It's about social contacts and a way to inform. And that's a bit what the speaker talked about. Because Swedish workplaces are far less hierarchical than in most other countries. It's assumed that employees, they have their own ideas, their own views, and you have to listen to that. And important decisions in companies or in different structures have to be anchored among the employees. Therefore, the way to meet is very often the Fika. I myself, as you mentioned, when I was Swedish Consul General to New York, I was that during the terrorist attack, September 11, 2001. And we were the Swedish Consulate General, so we had to be service for all Swedes being in New York and who are locked in different ways. And therefore, we are open every day, 24 hours a day. And we were constantly keen to help every Swede who were in New York during the crisis. And all the people who worked by us must have the same knowledge of what they could do and have the same message. And therefore, we had to meet every day and to inform and consult each other. And when did we do it? Oh, we had a Fika meeting every day for more than a week after the terrorist attack. So that's an example of what Fika means, which is much more than the cookies. So
thank you so much, Olle, for sharing that. And as you say, that Fika is about, you know, caring and sharing and so much more than the buns and the pastries. But speaking of pastries, if I may ask you, so which one is your favorite actually? Is it the vacuum cleaner or the Finnish shortbread, or which one is yours, if I may ask?
Well, I like all of it, but I usually have the Finnish pins that I think I eat every week about. But actually,
Good.
when we were in New York, we had to have things that we could buy in cafes in New York.
Thank you so much. Okay, so you go for the Finnish
But
shortbread.
what you could say, you also have this channel.
I have a lot on my table here. You can
Yes,
pick one.
but you could
Pick
see the
your own
things
choice.
down there, which you could, yes, that one. You could buy that in the Swedish church in New York. They have a cafe where they sell this typical Swedish thing.
Amazing. So now I know where to go when the next time I go to New York. Thank you so much, Ulle, for sharing. And I have all of the amazing pastries you can actually find here, a lot of biscuits. Okay, thank you, Ulle. And Stina, I would like to get back to you again for a second, because I know there are, a lot of amazing people has actually been involved in making this book happen. And I know that you want to address each and one of them, all of them. And would you like to introduce the next one? Because I know that she has played a big part on your journey.
Well, that's Ljungberg. And I decided that I was going to do this book, publish it by myself rather than through a conventional publishing company. That was after doing some research on this. And I decided this was the best solution for me. But then, of course, I knew nothing about this. And so I was writing. And one day I just thought, no, if I'm going to actually reach, I need somebody to hold my hand. And I'd taken one course or two, maybe even, with Anne. And I thought, well, I didn't think she would have time, but I thought she'd know somebody. But she said yes right away. And then she's been that person who I've been able to consult about all kinds of things having to do with writing and publishing a book. And she must have given me so many pieces of advice. But the one thing I remember is her saying, I like the way you write. And I thought each time, because I don't know how that I could have written in a different way. But that really was so incredibly encouraging. And so it's a good tip for anybody who's trying to help anybody to keep their spirits up.
It's good. Thank you so much, Stina. So, and I know that we have Anne with us, right?
I'm here.
You are here. Hi, Anne. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. And I'm so, so proud of you, Stina. Wow, have we been waiting for this day? I still remember where we met in the Grand Hotel over a cup of coffee and probably some pastries too. I wouldn't be surprised. The first time you said that you needed help with this book. And I knew already that you were writing it, that you were incredibly passionate about this subject. So of course it had to be a book.
Thank you, Anne. So what about, Stina says that you have actually been encouraging her during this journey, because writing a book is not just, writing, it's all about, courage, a lot of courage it takes. So, and she said that you're encouraging her, that I like how you write, that helped her a lot during her writing. So what about Stina's writing style do you like especially? And how would you like to describe this book?
I love that she's both being factful and very personal without going into soggy private details. It's all fun stories that give you a piece of what life is like in this part of the world and how we can bring this treasure of culture out into the world with her passion.
Thank you so much, Anne, for sharing. And I know that you have been an important part in making this book happen. And I'm so happy for all of you guys, and so happy for Stina. And it's amazing to have it here. So, and I do love pastries myself as well. So thank you, Anne. So
Thank you.
next one, I would like to introduce to you the book's two editors, because Fika Made in Sweden, you don't just have one editor, it actually has two. And it is Carol Squire, one now living on an island of the US West Coast near Seattle, and Anita Anand in New Delhi in India. So here we have actually represented the perspective from both the West and one from the East. What a balance. So let us start in the West. So Carol, are you with us today or this morning with you? I think you have an early morning on the West Coast of US, right? Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Good. So you have known Stina for many, many years, I know, and I imagine you enjoyed her baking and working with her on the book. What especially struck you with Fika?
Oh, everything. I mean, like everyone has said, Stina's passion for it. She was constantly amazed every time that she learned another fact, or she had another person, a random person in the subway, speak to her about Fika. She would call up with incredible excitement. Can you believe it? So yes, that Fika was such a motivating force is I think the most important thing I learned.
It's amazing. And who would you say this book is for?
You know, originally with the idea of it, I thought it would be a very niche audience, people only interested in Sweden or interested in Fika or pastries. And I came away not believing that at all. Like Anne was saying, the writing is so delightful. It's so easy and friendly. It's a story that in its detail on Sweden and Fika, it becomes universal. So really, everybody.
Wow, that's amazing words. Thank you so much, Carol. And it is actually really about uniting people. It actually struck me, and I actually became extremely proud to be, you know, a Fika Swede. So because it is about uniting people. Thank you so much, Carol, for your nice words. And so now let's hear from the East. Anita, are you with us tonight, I must say, because I think that you have a late night right now because you're in India, right? Are you with us?
Yes, I am here, and it's not so late. It's only 8 p.m. in the evening. So, yes, I'm right here. Yes.
Good to see you, Anita. Welcome to the event. How are you this evening?
Thank you.
Good. So
I'm wonderful and delighted to be here. Yes.
Amazing. So I know that you have also known Stina for many, many years, and I can imagine you must have shared your amount of cinnamon buns together.
Yes.
So what struck you about Fika during working on the book?
Well, I learned a great deal, you know, what it really is, what it means. And, you know, when Stina was in India and often in my home, in and out, I got bits and pieces of information about what it was. But, you know, I never connected all the parts. I really didn't know what it was. It was only while I was editing the manuscript that I got to know about Stina's relationship with Fika, or the sanctity of the Fika hour, and the rules of Fika. You know, I learned what Fika means to families, how children grow up and are introduced to Fika, rolling the dough of the pastry, grinding coffee beans, and enjoying biscuits and buns during picnics. It was delightful. I was fascinated to know that Fika as a break was introduced in the workplace as a result of a survey, which showed that the Swedish workers' productivity dipped at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. I really liked that story very much. I also learned the rules of the pastry, which were fascinating, from the simple to the complex cake and tortas. I was pleased to learn that most Swedes bake at least once a week in their homes, and even now, many adults, young adults, are taking to baking. And most important, I learned, was that Fika is a currency of care for the Swedes. It's a way of showing love and setting aside time for each other, which is extremely important. So that's what I learned from the book. Yeah.
Wow, amazing words. Thank you so much, Anita. And I can really relate to that. I mean, both as an employee, I mean, when I grew up, and nowadays, I mean, it is a sacred part of the day, you know, of our routine.
Yes.
So, but who would you say that the book is for? We heard Carol's perspective
Yeah,
before.
I agree with Carol that the book is for everyone. You know, it's not a niche book, and especially for those who love coffee and pastries. It's also for people who appreciate a beautifully written and laid out book with engaging and mouth-watering photographs, easy on the eyes, and especially it's written from the heart. And all the while, as you read it, you're drawn into the intimacy of not only Stina's relationship with Fika, but how Fika fits into the Swedish culture. It's a unique Swedish phenomena. And I would say that anyone planning to go visit Sweden will never get this information from a guidebook or a travel blog. It makes a great coffee table book with pastries, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much for sharing. And I totally agree with you. This is actually kind of a window into our hearts and into our homes
Yeah.
and our culture. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for being with us today. Amazing to see you.
Yeah.
And Anita actually brought up this about the photos in the book. And there is actually saying which says that a picture says more than 1,000 words.
Mhm.
And I must really agree on that, especially in this amazing book. And for you who were joining us in the early, when we started this event, you perhaps you saw the slideshow, and it actually consists of some of the amazing photos in this book. And the photographer behind this book's magic photos, Magnus Skoglöf, he could unfortunately couldn't be with us live today. But Stina, I know that you actually called him on Zoom yesterday to ask him some questions and how the book came through. So I know that we have recorded that interview. So hey guys, let me introduce you to Magnus Skoglöf, the photographer.
Since we are doing this in English.
Yes, good to see you.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you can't be with us live, but we have to figure out something anyway. So this is
Digital way, yeah.
digital way, exactly.
It's good to see you. Yeah.
And you know, I've always said that the photos in the book, they are as important as the text. And because of that, I think I've told you also, I was looking for a long time before. I still remember that one Sunday morning that I found this photo of yours, which was like berries and vegetables, a pile of something.
Yeah. It must have been the cover of one of the Mattias Dahlgren books, I think. Yeah. Cool.
And so I thought, wow, this is my kind of photographer, and because it's beautiful, and at the same time it's a little crazy.
Cool.
And I thought, oh well, at least I was actually happy just that, you know, such a photographer existed, because people told me that my expectations were too high.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But then I thought, well, you never know that this person is going to say yes to me. But
no.
So it took a couple of days. Then I called you on Tuesday, and I remember one thing I said was sort of defensive. There are not going to be any recipes in this book. Now, in spite of all that, you fairly quickly said yes.
I did.
What's your side of this?
But I think it's always nice to work with the people, and I always try to look for people with a strong passion for what they do. And you really showed me that when you explained for me what this project was about. And in fact, that it wasn't a recipe book. There are so many of them, but a book more with the cultural aspect of the theme of Fika, and that really appealed to me. So yeah, I was really interested in working with you.
Oh, and I'm so happy, and I continue to be happy, actually.
It's good.
And I think people have seen the book, they more than once people have asked me, so what's the secret? Like what's your secret as a photographer that the photos are so magical? And so much, actually another comment is that they really are an integral part of the book, which was my intention.
I don't know. Wow. Thank you. But I think back to passion again. I think that's the core of it. To be really passionate about what you do. I love what I do, and it's always something I look for to create cravings, basically, in the best way I can, so you can feel like my goal is you can feel taste and through those images. I mean, it's a hard task, but I do my best. But the core of it is a strong passion for what I do, and yeah.
Well, actually, that's one thing that I've appreciated. That it's like you put your heart in things.
Yeah. I try to, at least.
Well, you do, I think, and
thank you.
And that actually matters to me.
Yeah.
So same as you, I look for so not only did I want like a phenomenal photographer, I did also want somebody with a heart.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So then, now that we have the book here, so who would you say the book is for? Who would love to get this book, to read this book?
Well, I would say anyone with the interest in coffee and the Fika culture, I would say. It's a genuine book. It's really well written, and it's a beautiful book. So yeah, anyone, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, in short terms.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thanks very much for being able to do this short little chat.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck now. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I understand you'll be boarding an airplane tomorrow.
Yeah, I will. So that's why I can't participate tomorrow. But I hope we will do fine. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And hey guys, what an amazing time we live during these times, actually, that we actually can meet online this way. So please guys, let's give up a warm round of applause to Magnus, the photographer of this amazing book. We keep a bit active, right? Okay, so but I think that all of you will agree me that not only are the photos amazing, but actually the whole design of the book is. And I know there have been a lot of decision making during the design of the book, and the person who is actually behind this book's amazing design is the graphic designer Cecilia Kusowski. And so Cecilia, are you with us? Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Hi, good to see you. How are you today?
I'm very fine, thank you.
Good. So Cecilia, I would actually like to ask you a bit about the design.
Yes.
But because I have a lot of interesting questions when I got it in my hand for the first time. But first of all, the first question for you is, how did you actually get involved in this book project in the first place, and what made you say yes?
I worked a lot with Magnus before, and I really like his pictures as well. And I'm a big fan of his. And we work good together. And he introduced me to Stina, and Stina, she had a lot of thoughts about the book. And I asked her about what kinds of books do you like? And she brought some white books with only text. And she said it has to be clean and simple and elegant and Swedish, and a lot of thoughts. But none of the ones she brought had pictures, and I thought that was quite challenging because we really liked Magnus' pictures. And how do we do this white with a picture? So we came up with a solution of only a cup and the word Fika as a logo. Yeah, you can see it there. And by doing that, we made a recognition of the word fika, and it's quite clean and not complicated and simple. So I think Stina is happy now for that.
Yeah, and I followed her every week. No, I should have that. Well, Cecilia's amazing, but what should we do with this? So what should we do with that?
Yeah.
There's a lot of decision making.
Yeah.
So, but listen, when I mean, this book has several special features, I can tell
Yes.
you, because I was amazed myself. And there is a lot of decision making in these various designs, but especially, I mean, the back of the book.
Yeah.
For all of you, should it actually look like this, or is it really finished?
Yes, it is. It's quite unusual. It's called open thread stitch. So it's, I think it's not so common in the rest of the world, and it is quite new for designing a book. But the best thing with doing it, it's really beautiful, but when you open the book, it falls apart. So it's really, you know, you don't have to press it down. So it's really easy to look at. And we did it in the Swedish color, blue, the threads, and the gold is the yellow here from the Swedish flag.
Very amazing, and it looks amazing, and it is the perfect coffee table book, because then it won't break when
Yeah,
people look at it.
yeah.
And look, that's amazing. I love it. So, and finally, what would you say? Who would you recommend this book for?
I think all the people who's interested in Swedish culture or culture in any way, because it's all about the social norms in Sweden, that fika is just not drinking coffee, as we talked about a lot this time, but it's about socializing, and it's a break from what you are doing. It's not, you can't fika when you are working or discussing work all the time. You have to do a break and you have to socialize. And that's quite amazing. And I think it's all about the Swedish culture. And as someone said in the chat, the Swedish Speaker of Parliament doing this says a lot about Sweden, and I'm quite proud of that too. So yeah, anyone who's interested in the culture.
Thank you so much, Cecilia, for sharing that. And I don't know if anyone else with me was amazed by, you know, the Speaker of the Parliament, his collection of his political coffee mugs in the backdrop. That was amazing. So, okay, thank you so much, Cecilia, and amazing to see your work come through.
Thank you.
Okay, so what we now have found out is that fika is a lot about passion for people and passion for pastries. And without pastries, I know that you've written a lot about that, Stina. Without pastries, no fika. And I was actually so impressed when I read the second foreword, because you have two forewords in this book. And the second foreword was written by the famous and renowned baker Jan Hed, who actually has written and published more than 20 books himself on this subject. So I would like to go over to you again, Stina. What role has actually Jan Hed played in your fika journey? And for more work, could you please share with all of us the exciting story of how you ended up as an apprentice of one of Sweden's most famous and exclusive bakeries, the NK Bakery?
Well, Jan Hed came into my life when I had just started sort of really thinking about fika and wanting to do something with it. And I had talked with somebody who didn't understand at all what I was talking about. And I thought, no, I need to talk with somebody who has some vision. And I didn't know Jan, but somebody at the Swedish embassy in Delhi had told me that if it's about bread, then the name is Jan Hed. So I thought, oh, maybe that's something. And so I called him, and he immediately said, oh, you can come and visit my bakery. And from that point, this was many, many years ago, 10 actually, he's been my fika turn to person. And so he seemed like an obvious person to write this forward or perspective, as we call it. And yes, he was the one who suggested that I could, call the NK bakery. And the reason I wanted to be an apprentice at a bakery was that when I was going to tell the world about Fika through a bakery, I had become clear that I didn't want to bake in that bakery myself. I like baking just the way I do it at home for my friends. But I thought, well, it's a little arrogant to just say that. I ought to at least understand it. And so then I was on the lookout. And Jan Hed gave me a few suggestions. And I called and I called and I called. Nobody wanted an apprentice. People basically don't want an apprentice, full stop. And then here was I had no background. And then I called the NK Bakery, and Stefan Jonsson Pettersen, the head pastry chef, answers. Basically, he just says yes. And he says, oh, but wait a second, I need to just check with somebody. And he says, oh, the answer is yes. So when can you start? And then but aren't you coming soon then? And I mean, it was...
Go ahead. Nej, jag tar inte paus.
Kan jag fortsätta eller? Nej.
Yeah, you can go on, Stina. I think that someone is unmuted. So please, guys, mute yourself because you're interrupting Stina's. So, hang on.
Well, I just want to say one more thing about that experience. It was one of the most fun ones and at the same time most difficult. And there were two people who helped me survive that experience, and that's Oscar and Linus. I had to have two teachers, you understand. It was not very easy to take care of somebody who knew nothing when she started. But I want to comment on the Jan Hed's foreword, because there is one thing that I think is so amazing. You said he's written like more than 20 books, 25 at least. I think 10 are out there in English. They've sold in like thousands and thousands of copies. And so he writes that I've been in this profession for 55 years. And not for a minute have I regretted my choice of a profession. To be able to bake and then see somebody get happy. And so somebody of his caliber, that's still why he bakes, because he loves to make somebody happy. I think it's extraordinary. And I can relate to that also. It is part of it, is you want to, I remember my birthdays in Delhi. I remember saying, I want to bake for people. And of course, I didn't understand why I was saying that, but that is part of it.
That's amazing, Stina. And I think that I also love Jan's foreword. And as he writes in it is, when he actually sold out, when people came by to his pastry shop and he sold out, and they were so disappointed, and he just, hang on just a minute, I will rush off in the back and bake some more for you. So it is actually about passion. So, and as we have got to learn during this hour together, 45 minutes, 50 minutes together with you, Stina, is that you are an extraordinary woman and who has an extraordinary passion for whatever you dive into. And I would like to, all of you guys who have been with us today, I mean, another warm round of applause for Stina, because this is an amazing book. Thank you, Stina, so much for sharing this event. And guys, the time flies, and the pastries, they're getting old here. And Stina, when we spoke about this event and you invited me to be the speaker and moderate, then we discussed about this Fika presentation. And then I said to you, well, you said to me that I would like to have a cake. I mean, because when you're celebrating someone, you at least need a cake. So I rushed up to this morning, and I must say that I didn't bake it myself, but I actually have a stubbe for you. So this is actually, it has your name on it. So it's a small cake in Sweden, which is called stubbe. It's a kind of a log, right? To be in English. So that's thank you so much, Stina, for having all of us today. Do you have any roundup words to all the people that's been joining us today? And
well, I mean, again, thanks to everybody, I mean, for joining and being here with me today. That's the best thing about this. It's really like I'm at my own party. And then there are a couple of people who's not been mentioned yet, who's actually been part of the book happening. And that's one is Julie Jordan, who's been the recipe editor of the book's one recipe. And then also the final editor, Cole Lewison, he stepped in at the very end and did a fantastic job. And then there are some that couldn't make it into the acknowledgements because their contributions came after I had finished writing the book. And that's the printer, Göteborgs Tryckeriet in Gothenburg, and also the bindery, F&G in Malmö. You know, I think before I had gone, I went to visit both places. Before I did, I would have assumed that, you know, Cecilia sent the whole file with everything. It would just be printed in some machine. Then it would be cut in some other machine. And yes, those machines were there, but they were monitored by people. They adjusted things, fixed the scale, the curve, the this, the that. They got out of the, you know, being cut. There was somebody measuring with a millimeter thing saying, no, not good enough. So, I mean, it takes a lot before you have a product that looks like this book. And then now to just make this event happen, there's one person who's, he couldn't be here also today, Andreas Norlen. He's been helping me plan this. And then amazing Linda, you are like such a star. And then I think, can we see Micke behind the backstage there? Micke has been making all this actually happen. Micke.
The technical support. Where are you, Michael?
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Doing great.
fantastic.
The Zoom master.
Really. Now, and then, okay, I would like to finish with one, I think, you know, some words on the way there. For all of you out there, a tip for when you get to Sweden next, so that you know how to behave. So Fika etiquette rule number 1, I would say, is if somebody invites you for Fika, say yes. Always and always. Don't even try anything else, because that could actually really cost you. And one person in the book, Raymond from Egypt, he believes it cost him an attractive job, because he, poor thing, his interview was late morning, prime Fika time. So of course he was asked if he wanted coffee and then Fika, and he had never heard of Fika. He didn't drink coffee, so he just said no. And he didn't get the job, even though he had been headhunted for the job. And it's quite possible that his saying no was part of that explanation. Now, if this sounds weird to you, I think I want to explain just a little bit, like what it means when you ask if somebody wants coffee. You're not asking them, would you like to drink coffee? I mean, it's not, no, you are, it's a friendly gesture. And this thing that Carol referred to, I was in the electronics store the other day. And so I was chatting with the guys there and mentioned the book. And I said this thing of you can't say no to Fika. No, of course not, they said. And then one of them, and his family background must be, he's from some other country, though he's grown up here, obviously. And he says, no, he says, because it's like you open your heart. So you see, in the end, I mean, Linda has said passion. Fika is a lot. It's about love, actually.
And thank you so much, Stina, for those amazing words. And I think that all of those, I'm just looking in the chat. There are a lot of love in the chat for you, and I can just agree with all of them. And all of that love that, I mean, you just flourish, and you have written an amazing book, and I can actually hear your voice when I read this. And for those of you who want to grab your own copy of this, where can they do that, Stina? If they just want to, wow, I want one.
Well, I mean, I think it was part of the slideshow. It's in Sweden, it's Easy Bokus. And then we also have Book Depository, UK based. And Book Depository. And they ship for free all over the world. So nobody should be prevented from getting a book. I don't
That's
think.
amazing. So I think, well, let's have the the chat support, the technical support, Mr. Michael Jensen. He can actually send out links in the chat, so then everyone can grab their own copy if they want to. So, well, time flies when love and passion is in the air. And I just want to say thank you to you, Stina, and thank you all of you amazing people all over the world for joining us today. Now I'm diving into this amazing, Fika pastry table. I can't wait. So take care, everyone. Please follow Stina's Facebook group online on the Facebook official group of Fika Made in Sweden. There you can see actually the replay of this publishing. So thank you everyone from Sweden, Stockholm, where I am at. And thank you so much, Stina, for the amazing book. I will read it all over again tonight. Thank you, everyone.